Homage to teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Homage to Manjushri wisdom courage. Homage to guru lineage. The profound and subtle Dharma is encountered in 100,000 eons. See here, uphold. May I grasp Tathagata's meaning? In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will continue to learn the forward method in greater detail, step by step. These preliminary practices are something that every practitioner absolutely must take very seriously. Because if the preliminary practices are not adequately and thoroughly cultivated in the correct manner, especially from the very beginning, when this situation arises, it becomes very difficult and sometimes almost impossible to practice or carry out any of the main practices involved. It is relatively easy for us to understand them in most cases, simply by looking at the words themselves. But in terms of their meaning, we must truly and genuinely integrate them into our own continuum, in our daily lives and experiences, through actual practice. By practicing in this way, the entire sequence of practice will not become confused and will instead remain consistent and orderly. Furthermore, the afflictions within our own mind streams can be most effectively and powerfully eliminated in a highly efficient manner through this method. Therefore, in this especially degenerate age we live in, many people do not often follow the proper sequence or the detailed instructions of their lineage masters, and sometimes they do not carefully consider the guidance, and as a result, they encounter obstacles in their practice or see little effect from their efforts. In the end, they develop wrong views about the Dharma and their teachers, give up halfway, and lose their faith. Such phenomena are now extremely common in the world. Therefore, for each of us to seek the path of liberation for ourselves is truly not easy. At such a time, it is essential to follow the pith instructions and sequence carefully laid out by the great lineage masters and diligently hold ourselves to those standards. This is extremely important for you to remember. As was mentioned earlier yesterday, now, in our process of study and practice, we must regularly and frequently and carefully contemplate the four thoughts. In particular, we should regard the guru as a skilled physician and ourselves as patients. This is very important, something you really need to remember. Because the only way the guru can help you attain liberation is by transmitting the Dharma, which means directly sharing the essential teachings and wisdom that are necessary for your spiritual awakening. And as disciples, we must also follow exactly what the guru teaches. Only by actually putting it into practice ourselves can we attain liberation. It's just like a patient. If he doesn't take the medicine, it's impossible. And if he doesn't rely on the doctor, it's also impossible. But if he only relies on the doctor and doesn't take the medicine himself, he still cannot be cured. Likewise, if the doctor doesn't prescribe any medicine, no matter how skilled the medical doctor is, he most likely can't cure the patient's illness. Therefore, we must understand the meaning and interdependent relationship in this analogy. Otherwise, some people these days are just a bit too extreme. They think they don't need a guru and can understand all phenomena solely by relying on their own wisdom. But this is extremely difficult. Throughout human history, except for a very few individuals with exceptional faculties, ordinary people simply absolutely cannot achieve this under any circumstances. On the other hand, some people place all their hopes entirely on the guru, relying on the guru, not practicing themselves. No matter how great the guru is, even if he is a highly accomplished master and enlightened being, the realization in his continuum is transferred to the mind of others. This is also extremely difficult. As I mentioned earlier, if this were truly possible, then the mind streams of all the Buddhas of the three times would certainly possess inconceivable great compassion. Not to mention the Buddha, even Avalokiteshvara's compassion is incredibly strong. If he could truly and completely eliminate all the mental afflictions and suffering in the hearts of all sentient beings, then Avalokiteshvara would indeed be willing to use all of his compassion to save us. But whether it is Avalokiteshvara or Shakyamuni Buddha, even with them present, there are still countless people who fall into lower realms. So we can only understand this issue after studying it thoroughly. It's not like those who hold wrong views. Either think that the guru is all-powerful and that everything must depend on the guru, and that I don't need to make any effort myself, or believe that the guru has no ability, power, or compassion at all. Neither of these is correct. We should say that, just like the interdependent relationship between a doctor and a patient, most people in general won't fall into such extremes. If you don't take any medicine yourself and rely entirely on the doctor, is it really possible for your illness to be completely cured? Anyone in the public who understands a little about medicine, you'll understand he won't do that. Therefore, some of the current extreme heretical views must, without delay, be brought to an end. At the same time, we should also understand these principles in our own minds. If you don't understand, then in actual practice, you might either not rely on the guru and try to attain realization and enlightenment on your own, which is also quite difficult, or you might rely entirely on the guru and not depend on anything else yourself. This issue is considered relatively serious in Tibetan Buddhism. Many people who have faith, my guru is a very great living Buddha. So now, no matter what kind of negative karma I create, it won't matter, my guru has promised me. Some gurus, who on the surface are not very well versed in the scriptures and treatises, have also made promises to certain disciples, saying, it's fine, as long as you think of me at the moment of your death. I will come to receive you, I will come to help you. Whatever negative karma you create won't be a problem. Situations like this, frankly, do not conform to actual principles. Therefore, in the future, if we have the opportunity, when guiding disciples, you also cannot think, whatever I say goes, whatever I think will happen. That is also impossible. If someone has truly committed a crime in our worldly society, no leader would ever be able to save them. Some central leaders may really want to save their close relatives, but if they have already committed a serious crime, in the end, there is simply no way they must face legal punishment. This is the fundamental law of cause and effect in the world. No one has the ability to transcend it. Therefore, in this world, when we rely on our teachers and sincerely listen to their valuable teachings and guidance, we need to understand the principles behind these things. As mentioned earlier, at this point in our discussion, we now need to understand the dividing line. We must clearly distinguish the boundary between samsara and nirvana. Otherwise, as some people often say in certain situations, that one can be liberated during the bardo, or that everything depends on others to save us. This is actually quite difficult. On the contrary, nowadays, many ritual masters recite scriptures at the pillow of the deceased. The key to rising or falling is like a horse following its bridle. In reality, at that time, except for great practitioners who cultivated in their previous lives, most of the deceased are driven forward by the fierce winds of karma from behind. Ahead, they are greeted by a deep, gloomy, and truly terrifying oppressive darkness. In this way, they are squeezed into the narrow and perilous path of the bardo. Inconceivable minions of Yama shout, beat, kill, relentlessly in pursuit. It is already stated very clearly here, as you can see. The ones who truly have hope are those who, while still alive, rely on teachers, heed instructions, and practice. This is truly the only way for us to actually attain liberation. Otherwise, even in Tibet, during the time when Patrul Rinpoche was alive, at that time in Tibet, there were many various ritual specialists and reciters of scriptures. Everyone knows that basically they were very proficient in reciting texts orally, but for realization some had it while others did not have it. These ritual specialists would often go to people's homes in order to perform their duties, helping them perform rituals to transfer consciousness for the deceased, reciting the liberation through hearing scripture, reciting the aspiration prayer for Sukhavati, and chanting scriptures for 49 days after death, as well as performing blessings for the living, reciting the great longevity practice, for example, and so on. These kinds of ritual specialists generally, some had relatively high realization, which was fairly common in Tibet, but not all studied or practiced them. There were cases, so these ritual specialists would often, after someone had passed away, gather by the deceased's pillow, with many solemn robed monks silently lined up together. Then the sutra masters recited the hearing liberation ritual for him. Within the liberation through hearing ritual, there is a passage which says the crucial point of ascending or descending like a horse following the reins. This verse, in other words, essentially means, to put it simply, that now you have entered the bardo. Because when a person has just died, 49 days, liberation through hearing recitation, they tell the deceased. Now, at this moment, whether you ascend to be reborn in a pure land or a good realm, or descend, which would mean falling into one of the three lower realms, this is a very crucial moment right now. It's just like a powerful, strong horse with a bit held securely in its mouth. Wherever it is that the rider wants to go, he can simply and gently pull the reins in his hand, allowing him to smoothly and easily change the horse's direction. The horse will follow the rider's intention. In other words, the deceased must pay close attention and listen carefully. This is the most critical moment for you to ascend or descend. He has always emphasized this. However, the author says that the truly crucial moment in the story, as was mentioned yesterday, is actually right now while you are alive. When you have obtained a human body and have access to the Guru's pith instructions, even if you just attend a single class, the power of this virtuous route in your mental continuum is truly extremely strong. But by that time, except for a very few high monks and great masters who practiced in their past lives, for most people it is extremely difficult. In the past, Jigme Gyaltsen, Nyingma, and Patrul Rinpoche mentioned in different teachings that when it comes to the bardo state, they said that for people like us, it is actually very difficult to rely on simple recitation or transference at that time. Therefore, it is important to practice while you are alive. This is often emphasized. Some great masters and high monks of the past were truly remarkable. When they reached the bardo state, in the bardo of Dharmata, they missed liberation but when they entered the bardo of becoming during that process, some teachers give direct instructions on recognizing the nature of mind in their ear, or some teachers would say in their ear, don't enter womb or about to enter, visualize your own consciousness as the syllable bai or case to pies and so on. They give instructions one by one when these direct instructions are given repeatedly. Some great masters with spiritual connections in past lives, through the careful guidance of their teachers or Dharma friends, then in his mind he at once, if he's about to enter the womb, visualizes himself as the syllable ko or command, or if he wishes to go to a pure and peaceful land, immediately visualize one's consciousness as the syllable hamart and enters the pure land of great bliss. Such phenomena exist. Many great masters in many tantric practices also have such methods when his external breath has ceased. But the internal breath has not yet stopped. After internal breath stopped, 49 if guided daily, with direct pointing out instructions, then he may be able to transfer his consciousness, or even if some people have heavier karmic obstacles and are heading toward the lower realms, through the forceful phawa practice performed by some masters, they can be redirected to a favorable rebirth, or even attain liberation. Such opportunities do exist for very few individuals with special karmic connections, but for most of the deceased, it is indeed particularly challenging and difficult at that time. Why is that? Because the person has already left this world, when alive, didn't practice virtue. At that moment, all kinds of karmic forces from past lives, such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, the winds of karma slowly begin to chase after and drive them onward. And ahead of them, there are also many frightening and terrifying visions of their future lives. In other words, some manifestations of their next life appear before them. Like if I take rebirth as a hungry ghost drum, those truly terrifying, haunting sounds, and the many various forms of hungry ghosts will gradually start to appear right before your very own eyes. So many incredibly dark and deeply frightening phenomena, or echoing cries of pain and suffering, all kinds of terrifying noises suddenly come to greet you right in front of you, and you are all alone with no one to rely on. You enter the long passage of the bardo, and at that time it is truly pitiful. After leaving this world, everyone really does actually have to go through such a bardo stage. And if you were someone who committed serious sins, such as killing and creating heavy negative karma, at that time, you'll see Yama's minions in different forms, like ox-headed and horse-headed beings, holding all kinds of weapons in their hands, stabbing and attacking you with terrifying sounds like kill, kill, beat, beat, and so on. All sorts of horrifying, chilling, terrifying screams begin to threaten you, harm you, and cause you pain. So, in the teachings of some great masters of the past, it is also said, when a sinner is about to die, all the sufferings of hell manifest before them. As you are slowly taking your very last breath, the excruciating and unbearable pains of hell begin to appear right in front of you. At that moment, it is indeed the case for sentient beings. You could say, if you want to escape, there is nowhere to run. If you want to hide, there is nowhere to hide. And if you seek refuge, or look for someone to escort or protect you, you will find no one. Completely trapped in a state of utter pity, confusion, or you could say, without any protection at all, in such a helpless situation, at a loss, not knowing which direction to go, and just like a fallen leaf, separated from its tree and carried away by the wandering wind, you drift through the world, feeling completely alone, with no one beside you and nowhere that truly feels like home, experiencing the pain of being separated from all your friends and loved ones in such a hellish place. So, for example, when someone in the family, perhaps a loved one, passes away on that day, many of the living are thinking in their hearts, where exactly is the consciousness of the deceased wandering now? Indeed, there will be a period where the consciousness experiences the intermediate state, although many ritual masters at that time say the key to ascending or descending lies in the recitations for them. It is actually really, truly, and extremely difficult at that moment. For most people, it can feel almost impossible. So, how could it really be considered the key to either ascending or descending? As I mentioned earlier, there is nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, no refuge, and no one to rely on. At such a helpless and bewildering moment in time, how could it possibly be the key to ascending or descending? At this time, we should understand that in that very moment, although there are such teachings in the Bardo practices, is what is said in the Bardo teachings incorrect? That is not the case. In fact, within the Bardo teachings, for certain beings, it is indeed possible through this method. Recitation does have blessings, and is certainly helpful. There are indeed cases where some can attain liberation in this way. But for most people, what you actually do while alive is even more important. Everyone must understand this. Some people often say, I might not be able to practice virtuous deeds right now. When I die, I hope you will perform a proper transference for me. This includes some parents of Dharma friends nowadays who place great hope on their children. If you have already left home, hold high hopes. As a monastic, when I die, perform a proper transference. You study Buddhism when I die. Chant Buddha's name for me and do transference. Reciting Buddha's name, doing transference has merit. It is meritorious for you, but the most crucial thing is, while you are still alive, you should practice virtuous deeds. This is yours. No one can take it. Moreover, you truly do possess a very precious virtuous root. I recently returned home. We established a Tibetan lay Buddhist center there with about 100 people. I cited this teaching and shared it with them. Now that you are old, many things at home, basically, you no longer really have much say in them. Now, as you live your life, that is to say, in your day-to-day existence, you have already reached the final stage of your life. At this time, if you do not earnestly study and practice Buddhism, when you die, your family recites scriptures for 49 days, and then, after that, your family members will carefully take your body to the charnel ground or to the funeral home, as is customary. Of course, they have made an effort and recited scriptures for you. This is beneficial, meritorious. However, this kind of merit is far from surpassing what you can accomplish by practicing yourself right now. If you listen to one teaching daily, merit gained, whether you prostrate, recite the Buddha's name, or offer lamps, the virtuous roots you personally cultivate far surpass these other merits. So the meaning here is also that what we can understand is that you really should not place all of your hopes entirely on your teacher. Nor should you expect your teacher to be all-powerful and capable of everything. With the help of the guru, I can do anything. I don't need to do anything myself. This kind of thinking is indeed incorrect. Because nowadays, in some remote areas, people don't really understand Buddhism very well. As a result, they think they can commit any kind of negative karma they want. Then the Lama will recite scriptures and perform liberation rituals for me. Everything has been solved, but this has some difficulties. It's just like in the secular world, it's best if a person doesn't break the law in the first place. If they break the law, they should resolve it themselves. But once they're in prison and others try to pull strings for them, it's actually quite difficult to get them out of it. Once we enter the bardo, the intermediate state after death, at that time, the state of confusion is extremely intense. Generally speaking, it's actually quite difficult to bring you back from there. That's why Guru Padmasambhava Vudhyana once said this. She said, "It's too late to empower a memorial tablet. When the soul is wandering in the bardo like a foolish dog, it's hard to recall virtuous paths." Because after a person dies, generally speaking, in Tibet, there is a memorial tablet. As mentioned, the memorial tablet, no matter the family, is used throughout the 49 days of recitation. After death, before handling the body, some lamas and monks are invited to recite scriptures. They perform liberation rituals beside the corpse to help the deceased pass on. Once the body's about to be handled, they specifically draw an image of the person and then make a memorial tablet or plaque. The idea essentially is that the soul of the deceased can be summoned to the portrait. Sometimes a photograph is placed there. Actually, I really should have brought one today. I think I have one right over there. It's a piece of paper. If the deceased is male, then a male figure is drawn, depicted serenely squatting with hands joined in reverent prayer under a parasol. This is the kind of image it is. If the deceased is a woman, then, as is customary, a female figure is drawn. Then just make some things like umbrellas and garlands on the spirit tablet. Just a bit of simple, subtle, and elegant ornamentation, nothing too elaborate or overwhelming. Especially the deceased's own prayer beads or personal ornaments from when they were alive, such as jewelry. For example, in Tibet, it is quite common to see coral, prayer beads, or other similar traditional items thoughtfully placed on it as part of local customs and practices. Ornaments the person valued most can be placed on the tablet throughout the entire 49-day period. Monks recite the Bardo Thodol, liberation through hearing, for them. In the Bardo Thodol, there are daily empowerments and ritual practices. The soul of the deceased is summoned to the memorial tablet, and empowerments and direct pointing instructions are given to them. This is a common practice. Many of Guru Rinpoche's Terma treasures also require this. Basically, in most of Tibetan area, in Tibetan Buddhism after death, if conditions permit, Bardo Thodols recited throughout 49 days. If conditions do not permit, then at the very least, recitation for the deceased should be done during 1 or 2 7-day periods. After the recitations are completed, as for the memorial tablet just mentioned, because there are some precious pearls on it, all of these are handed over to the Lama in whom the deceased had the most faith, and just let him handle it. As you all know, in the case of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, the memorial tablets of the deceased from all over Tibet were brought to the Lama. Generally, on the 15th or 30th, the Lama has the monastic community recite scriptures and handles them all. There are countless. In fact, actually, in principle, for many of the deceased individuals who have passed away, through the blessings of the Lama and chanting of the monks, they attain liberation. This happens often here to emphasize that spiritual practice in life matters. Guru Rinpoche said that at that time it is said most of the deceased, most of those who have passed away, Their souls wander in the bardo like hungry dogs. No matter how you empower the memorial tablet, it's like a hungry dog that's left, call and it won't come back. At that time, it may not have much effect on the deceased. At that point, wishing to recall virtuous realms or be reborn in pure lands becomes difficult. He cited this scriptural evidence, and the main purpose of quoting scripture is that while we are alive, we truly are relying on the merit of recollection or understanding the teachings on the bardo has truly tremendous and remarkable power. There is a rather well-known and often told story in Tibet about an extremely affluent and prosperous individual, someone who possessed great riches and wealth. In Tibet in ancient times, there is an old lady who appears to be quietly sitting next to him. The old lady was close to the wealthy family. Later on, after some time had passed, the wealthy woman's beloved husband, who had been by her side for many years, sadly passed away. After his death, his wife was extremely heartbroken. Later, she told the old lady what happened. This old lady, though she studied Buddhism before and practiced virtuous deeds, but some of the mandalas and some of the Dharma images of Tantra, she lacked knowledge, especially since she was someone from a rather remote, somewhat isolated area. The old lady, in order to comfort the wealthy woman, went to her house to help handle a few important matters and perform some food offerings. During this process, they recited scriptures for the deceased for 49 days. At this time, many people were probably already aware of what was happening. When reciting the Bardo Thodol, the thanka of the peaceful and wrathful deities was hung in the shrine room. Then the monks began to recite the Bardo Thodol. When she saw the thanka of the peaceful and wrathful deities, the old lady realized she had never seen it before. She looked at it with a gaze full of wonder and rarity. At that time, there was a lama present, and she asked him about it. The lama replied to her, "This is the mandala of the peaceful and wrathful deities," she said. "Why is it hung here?" The lama replied, "Usually after someone dies, many people experience these kinds of phenomena. At that time, it is important to recognize them as the Yidam deities." At that moment, the old lady was quite skeptical and doubtful. She carried deep doubts within her heart, and with a heavy sigh, she finally said, "It's very strange. Why do these appearances manifest after a person dies?" She seemed unwilling to acknowledge such phenomena. But at the same time, she also developed a bit of faith, and that was that 3 years later, that elderly old lady also passed away. After she left this world, her son and daughter, who loved her dearly, were profoundly heartbroken and deeply saddened. For the sake of their beloved mother, they began reciting scriptures for a period of 49 days. After the recitations, the memorial tablet I mentioned earlier, after 49 days, they had to take the memorial tablet to a very renowned lama for handling. From afar, they brought her memorial tablet, gold, silver, jewels, and prayer beads. They hung all of these items together and set out for Lhasa to find the Karmapa. I've forgotten which Karmapa incarnation it was then, but when he went to seek out the Karmapa was already very famous then, and there were so many people coming to see him that he couldn't meet him at all for 2 or 3 days. He kept waiting, but eventually one day he was able to get an appointment. When he went, the Karmapa was sitting in the courtyard. It seemed he was sitting on a stool, and at that moment he began to pray. He offered his mother's possessions as an offering and also dedicated the memorial tablet to the Karmapa as well. Then he pleaded, "Master, please, you must truly help my mother to attain liberation. You must promise me this." At first, the Karmapa said, "I cannot promise that." Sentient beings are subject to their own karma, and I do not have the power to change that. He kept crying and asked, "Can you at least tell me, where exactly has she been reborn now, right at this very moment?" "I don't know. I don't have supernatural powers, so I don't know where she's been reborn." He kept saying, "You must promise me. Make sure she doesn't accidentally fall into a lower realm and that she is reborn in a pure land." He kept insisting like this, but at that time the Karmapa still did not agree. Later, perhaps because that person had very deep feelings for his mother, some people really do, in fact, entrust all of their dearly departed loved ones to the master, asking rituals for release. They deeply miss the deceased. They trust the master, seek his promise. Later, that young man very gently hugged the Karmapa's feet and said, "Will you promise or not? If you don't promise, I won't let you go." He just kept on holding on to him. But later, the Karmapa entered a brief meditative state for a moment and then said, "There's no need for me to perform the ritual. Your mother has already attained liberation." Unconvinced, was it me holding you? You started to lie to me. Are you real or fake? Later, the Karmapa said, "I have observed with my wisdom, and your mother attained a pure land a long time ago. In your area, perhaps 3 years ago, a wealthy man passed away. At that time, your mother, in the mandala of a Buddha, meet peaceful and wrathful deities. There was a monk, then a certain monk personally and specifically told your mother about this matter. Through karmic connection, she came to recognize the face of the Yidam and thus attained liberation. If you don't believe it, you can go back and ask about this incident." He was happy. After he went back, he made some real inquiries, and in the end, he even personally met that monk. The monk admitted that your mother didn't understand then. I already told her that these are the peaceful and wrathful deities. So through this kind of karmic connection, that individual over time also developed a deep and unwavering faith in Vajrayana Buddhism, demonstrating a profound trust in its teachings and practices. Stories like this are well known throughout Tibet. If many of us can practice the Bardo teachings, discussed last year, this Bardo practice can indeed be clearly recognized as it is experienced during the transitional Bardo of dying. If it really doesn't work, in the next life encounter, Vajrayana teachings attain liberation. Phenomena do exist. People with roots and advantages have truly recognized the peaceful and wrathful deities. Then, during the Bardo, they will not fall into lower realms and will attain liberation. This is actually a true case, not just an ordinary legend. There are also many historical sources for this with detailed stories within them. So, fellow practitioners present here, on the one hand, when you see certain things now, peaceful and wrathful deity images, after we look at them, we should observe them very clearly. In case when I die, such phenomena appear, spiritual capacity varies. For some, what we see now, the peaceful and wrathful deities in both forms all appear together. For some, it is only somewhat related to the peaceful and wrathful deities and may not appear as is. At that time, as I have mentioned before, "Oh, these are the peaceful and wrathful deities, I must not be afraid." You must not ever mistake them for other animals. Otherwise, if we miss them, they will immediately appear as truly terrifying hell wardens. This is simply just a transformation of our own mind. Therefore, nowadays, many people have prejudices against Vajrayana Buddhism. If prejudices exist, nothing can be done even then. Wrong views in Vajrayana, misunderstood Sutrayana teachings. We cannot stop this. For those with a karmic connection to Vajrayana or Sutrayana, don't reject everything. When you see the union images, don't think, what's the point? Don't think that. There are many profound secrets within such images indeed.
The human eye cannot perceive what you imagine. It is impossible for your greed, anger, and ignorance to be reflected in a Thangka painting. Buddhism is not so foolish as that. There are profound dependent origins. But if you don't understand these, you see, whether it's a wrathful or peaceful deity or Amitabha Buddha, it is indeed very important for us to look at these while we are still alive. Because this lady, she had neither received empowerment nor formally and systematically practiced. She had no idea what these were. She thought strange. How do things appear when dying? Thoughts arose within her. But later, as a result of various different circumstances, she also attained liberation through such sacred and revered images. So generally speaking, there are truly all kinds of phenomena in the bardo state. But here we mainly emphasize that the most crucial moment is now as we live, just like the direction of a horse changes with the reins. This is the key moment in our lives, the crucial point that will determine whether we rise or fall. It is happening right now while we are alive and able to make choices that shape our direction. By relying on this human body and practicing virtuous deeds that lead upward, we are far ahead compared to the other 5 realms. In other words, in this very life, we can completely and forever abandon the crown of the head. The fact that we have now obtained a human body is extremely crucial. The critical moment of change is now. If we practice virtuous deeds, give rise to bodhicitta, become ordained, or practice the Vajrayana, then the power of such virtuous actions and merit far surpasses that of the hell, hungry ghost, animal, god, and asura realms. The other 5 realms simply just cannot compare. Masters of the Kadampa tradition, through diligence lifetime, all attained the state of Vajradhara. Many practitioners and renunciants in our Nyingma tradition also, through a lifetime of effort, journeyed to pure realms. Within Chan Buddhism and the Pure Land school of Chinese Buddhism, there are also quite a few people who may have previously been ordinary worldly people, completely immersed in mundane life, but later, through faith in their teachers and the Dharma, they gave up all the complicated affairs of the world. They devoted all their energy completely and wholeheartedly to the Dharma, diligently practicing, and in the end, at the time of death, became completely and utterly liberated. They permanently and forever abandoned the crown of the head. To abandon the head means, in Tibetan Buddhism, for example, it's something people commonly say, because when a person dies, the crown of the head is left behind. This applies not only to humans, but also to yaks and other sentient beings. At death, their skeleton will be discarded. But if we do not attain liberation in this lifetime, we may have to abandon our skulls countless times. In this life, I am human, and when I die, my skull will be left behind. In my next life, I might become a yak, then in the following life, a hungry dog, and so on, wandering endlessly throughout samsara. Wander in samsara. In the end, my skeleton will be discarded countless times in the world. But if in this life I diligently practice according to the Guru's teachings, then this lifetime will be the last time I abandon my skull. From then on, I will no longer be reborn into the world due to karma and afflictions. I won't abandon it again. So in this life, let's strive to forever abandon samsara, forever leave behind the skeletons of birth and death. We should let go of it fully. This is what we ought to achieve. Likewise, this human body can accumulate much more negative karma than other beings in the lower realms. In other words, in this very life, right here and now, in this very moment, it is also possible to become the main culprit that ensures we can never escape the abyss of the lower realms. On the other hand, if this human body happens to commit negative actions, this negative karma far exceeds that of beings in hell, animals, or hungry ghosts. Why is that? Because sometimes people are remarkably, even exceptionally clever. The wrong views that arise in the continuum of a person, the negative karma of verbally abusing others or slandering the three jewels, are things that ordinary yaks or beings in hell not necessarily be able to do. Because there is a certain very powerful wrong intelligence in the mind, this kind of wisdom, whether it's slandering the guru or denying cause and effect, can be created quickly. Especially now, in this era of rapid scientific development, if a person's views are not correct, he can create nuclear weapons, create atomic bombs, and then cause millions upon millions of sentient beings, under your actions, to lose their precious lives all at once in a single tragic moment. Even if you just make an explosive, you could still take away countless lives. So this kind of human capability is truly terrifying. Nowadays, people who do not believe in Buddhism sometimes, we might, including some Dharma friends here, before you believed in Buddhism, in fact, the negative karma you have generated may have far, far exceeded that of the yaks peacefully grazing on the high, remote, and tranquil mountains. They themselves are very ignorant, and they have greed and anger in their hearts. These are all present. But to deliberately harm others, to intentionally create weapons, intentionally consume many sentient beings, such actions are not necessarily something they could do. So if we do not change for the better in this life, we may end up creating the causes that will, in the end, prevent us from ever attaining liberation from samsara. Now, we are fortunate enough to have encountered a supremely excellent spiritual teacher, like a skilled physician. We have obtained the precious and truly authentic Dharma, which is like a miraculous nectar medicine, a healing remedy that can even bring the dead. At this time, we should depend on and make use of the 4 kinds of genuine thoughts mentioned above, as previously discussed, and practice the authentic Dharma we have heard, entering the path to liberation. Therefore, just as we discussed earlier, through the above analysis, we should truly and sincerely feel in our hearts very fortunate to have encountered such a supremely excellent spiritual teacher who possesses the true qualities of the Dharma and is like a skilled physician. I truly, really, honestly, actually very often think, among so many intricate causes and conditions, I was truly able to meet the most precious and revered Guru His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok. This is something I have always thought about throughout my life. It is not just something I say. I truly think deep in my heart that if I had not been so fortunate as to meet such a remarkable guru, whether it's my classmates or perhaps even some of my former Dharma companions from earlier times, many people's current lives, their personal views and perspectives, and their everyday behaviors in their daily routines. After understanding them, I have so many truly new feelings and quite a few really different, unique feelings as well. Now, having encountered such a supreme guru, and moreover, as mentioned earlier, truly obtained the nectar of the sublime Dharma that brings liberation from samsara. Therefore, the 4 contemplations mentioned above should most certainly be practiced. See yourself as a patient, see the guru as a skilled physician. This should not just be lip service. In actual practice, we should reflect on this sincerely and often. If we simply contemplate in this way, then, with the countless blessings and extraordinary transformative power of the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha can gradually and steadily merge into our own mind stream. In fact, for those who study Buddhism, frequently praying to the Guru and the 3 jewels, this is very important. Through prayer, the blessings and responses of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all of these feelings will slowly and gently merge into our hearts. It is important to understand that the study of Buddhism is not at all the same as acquiring worldly knowledge. With worldly knowledge, once you understand something, that's enough. For example, when studying physics, the theories developed by Einstein, once you understand them, that's sufficient. However, in Buddhism, there truly is, most certainly, the genuine and profound blessing of the lineage masters. The blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are bestowed upon us through our own faith and our own deep sense of reverence and respect for all that surrounds us every day. This kind of attainment is completely different from worldly knowledge. The profound blessing and deep wisdom slowly merge into one, creating a truly powerful response and force, which is extremely strong, and it can guide us to enter the path of liberation and restrain all negative actions. Therefore, I sincerely and genuinely hope that on our path of study and practice, as we move forward together, as we continue to move forward together, we often pray to the Guru and the 3 jewels upon waking in the morning. Pray to the Guru and the 3 jewels before going to sleep. Even when walking or just taking a short break during the day, for example, at such times, we should also recall the Guru and the 3 jewels in our hearts. Always align all our actions, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, to never stray from the wisdom and light of the Guru's blessings. Many great masters and practitioners of the past did exactly this. On the surface, even if they were in a garden looking at flowers, when they looked at the flowers, they did not think, oh, this flower is so beautiful, how wonderful. They didn't necessarily think like that flower is beautiful, offering it to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is the Guru's blessing that has allowed me to receive this. All positive and negative experiences, without exception, are truly and completely inseparable from the Guru's profound and compassionate blessings. For example, a person who truly has realization, he is very sick right now, he is in great pain, and he is suffering. At that time, they never think, I'm just so unlucky. Honestly, I'm really, truly, absolutely such a failure. Today, I accidentally got such a serious illness. They would never think like that. Oh, the blessings of the Guru and the 3 jewels are truly, truly inconceivable. Today, I have unfortunately fallen ill once again. This is an opportunity for me to eliminate karmic obstacles accumulated since beginningless time. Relying on this opportunity, the negative karma in my mind stream is dispelled one by one. No matter whether they encounter pleasant circumstances or painful adversity, whatever the environment or time may be, it is all, in every possible way, essentially the same. This experience is truly felt within, as one is gently surrounded by the blessings and wisdom of the Guru, allowing a sense of peace and clarity. This is the conduct of a superior practitioner. They never really even stop to think, oh, the Guru's blessings have truly and completely left me once again. Today, as we can see, there is no blessing from the Dharma. How could it be that today I am not receiving any blessings? I am so unlucky, so miserable. Look, honestly, I have prayed so many times, but in the end, I still end up getting sick anyway. Some lay practitioners say things like this to me, and when I hear it, I feel genuinely very sorry for them. I've studied for so long, offered many lamps, released many lives, and accumulated much merit. Yet I never expected to catch a cold today. So unlucky. Now, I don't even have any faith in the Dharma anymore. Of course, these people actually have a very shallow and limited understanding of the Dharma, so they have no idea about the blessings of the Guru. What is the approach in your own view to enter your own wisdom, to truly access your inner knowledge? Therefore, we should reflect on and think in this way, thoroughly and with careful consideration. We should sincerely practice and conduct ourselves with care according to the 4 contemplations mentioned above. We should eliminate the 4 mistaken perceptions and the 4 inverted views that contradict the 4 true contemplations. The 4 contemplations we discussed earlier must always be relied upon. And what we need to eliminate are the 4 inverted views. As stated in the Treasury of Qualities, as is often referenced, human nature is deceitful like a rope. Relying on a guru is like hunting deer. Having already obtained the true Dharma like musk, one still delights in hunting and abandons one's vows. This passage explains the 4 inverted views as described in the text. Because, as mentioned earlier, in the process indeed, the ongoing process of relying on a guru, that is, when you are depending on a spiritual teacher or guide, in this context, we should sincerely and thoughtfully regard the guru as a truly skilled and highly experienced physician. But, on the contrary, in the Buddhist text called the Treasury of Qualities, the respected Venerable Gyigme Gyalwe Nyugu discusses what are known as 4 kinds of inverted views. These inverted views are mistaken ways of perceiving. In many situations, one often sees oneself as the determined hunter and considers the wise guru to be the elusive deer in this particular scenario. The Dharma is seen as musk, and diligent practice is equated with hunting. Does such behavior or phenomenon actually exist nowadays in the world around us? It certainly does, as everyone has noticed. For example, a hunter who is driven by strong, overwhelming greed will, by any means necessary, use all sorts of different methods. First, he catches the deer, kills it, and then obtains the musk. After obtaining the valuable musk, he seeks out buyers who appreciate its rarity and are willing to pay a good price. Once the sale is made, he quickly begins to... His desire and goal are just like that. In the same way, as you might expect, there are some people in the world today who use a range of clever and cunning methods to achieve their aims, initially placing their trust and confidence in the guidance and wisdom of the guru. If your guru likes wealth or material possessions, he will make truly lavish and exceedingly generous monetary offerings ceremoniously in front of the guru. If the guru likes fame, he will use all kinds of flowery words to praise his reputation. In some cases, he will attempt to please him through other means, by various methods or approaches. In any case, the Dharma teachings that exist in the Guru's mind, such as empowerment instructions and pith instructions, he makes every effort to obtain each and every one of them for himself, absolutely all of them without exception. And before he finally gets them, he always follows and relies on the Guru, not leaving him for many years. But once he has obtained the Dharma from the Guru's mind, The guru also thinks that this is a virtuous and qualified disciple, and so he reverently imparts all of his dharma and complete lineage to him. But after receiving all the valuable teachings and guidance, the disciple unfortunately never really thinks of or appreciates the guru's kindness. Generally speaking, in the world, even for a secular teacher of knowledge, people usually feel gratitude. But in the degenerate age, people with extremely bad hearts, they do not think of the guru's kindness at all. Moreover, when it comes to mentioning the guru's name, there are some people who are genuinely afraid that it might negatively affect their own personal reputation. They worry about how others might see them, and there are indeed people like this in the world. They never say, I received such and such dharma from which guru, as is often the case. Instead, they claim, I invented this myself. I understood this on my own. They start gradually spreading the dharma to people everywhere they go, sharing its teachings, just like someone selling precious musk. Of course, because it seems that you lack gratitude towards your guru, this dharma might perhaps bring a little benefit to others, even if only temporarily for a short period of time. But in the end, it brings no benefit to either oneself or others. Therefore, in the future, when we rely on a wise and experienced guru for guidance, we must pay very close attention to such behavior. Because here, it is explained through a metaphor. The methods and ways of a disciple who possesses a bad and flawed character are, in many respects, like ropes. In the very ancient times, long, long ago, when people hunted for food and for their survival, and carefully constructed and set up intricate traps with great care, how did they do it? To begin, they would carefully dig a pit in the ground, making sure it was the right size and depth for what they needed. Once the pit was ready, they would take a rope and place it inside. Arranging it, the other end of the rope would be gently and securely tied to a thin, flexible and slender wooden stick, creating a careful connection, and then some soft, fresh grass or green leaves would be gently spread out over it, making sure it was fully covered. After that, if a musk deer, perhaps wandering nearby and not paying close attention, happened to accidentally fall into it, at that very moment in time, the flexible stick would suddenly snap up with a sudden motion, and the rope would already have snared the deer, capturing it. Once it was caught, the hunter would be delighted and, without hesitation, immediately kill it. The reason he caught it, as his main purpose, was to obtain the musk. In the world today, it is often seen that there are many disciples who have unfortunately become degenerate, meaning their purpose in relying on a spiritual teacher is not to obtain the truly supreme Dharma. In fact, nor is it to feel gratitude toward their teacher. There is none of that. Instead, what they truly want is to gain fame and recognition for themselves, make money through the Dharma, and continue to pursue the 8 worldly concerns. Then, through various means, they end up deceiving their teacher. This phenomenon is extremely common, and so it is said here, one must never, ever use the 4 intentions of a hunter to break one's vows. If this is the case, then both oneself and others, according to what is stated in some tantric treatises, as is often referenced, if one breaks the teacher's instructions, leaves or deceives the teacher, karmic consequences, terrifying, one will be unable to attain liberation from the hell realms for countless lifetimes. So here, it also explains the 4 inverted intentions. It says here that among them, the so-called 4 inverted intentions, that is to say, regarding the guru as a musk deer, regarding the true Dharma as musk, and seeing oneself as the hunter, and treating diligent practice as the arrow, trap, and so on methods used to hunt the musk deer. Therefore, in the process of relying on a teacher now, at this particular moment in time, we ourselves should also act properly and truthfully, and treat our conduct with respect and a pure mind. Frequently pray to the teacher and all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas so that the blessings in their mind streams merge into your own. If you truly regard yourself as a sick person, then the Dharma, which is like medicine from the Guru, will be beneficial to you. But if you rely on a teacher only out of temporary greed to obtain the Dharma, which is the case for many people nowadays, right? They go to rely on a teacher, not for any other reason. It's just to simply receive some precious and valuable Dharma from the teacher, with great respect. Once they've received the teachings, they never pay any attention again from that point on. They never even look back, really, ever. They don't even mention, for example, that they once received teachings from a certain teacher, and if they do talk about it, they usually use a different tone. Therefore, whenever we have received, at any point in our lives, at any time or place, even just a single line of precious Dharma from a teacher, no matter how brief, we should always feel a sense of gratitude, and never forget it throughout our lives. For example, in the secular world, ordinary teachers in various settings impart knowledge to you. A thoughtful and wise individual, someone who is truly and genuinely filial to their parents and deeply respects their teachers, he definitely won't forget it either. The value and benefit of the Dharma are truly far greater than that, much more significant in fact. Therefore, if you have such respect for the Dharma and your teacher, the Dharma will gently and compassionately bring profound blessings and transformative power. But if you do not remember the heartfelt kindness and unwavering, sincere support of your Dharma connections, then the knowledge that exists and flows within your mind stream gradually becomes just a particular kind of wisdom, a form of understanding. But it may not necessarily possess great power, especially in comparison to others. Therefore, those who seek the Dharma but do not practice it sincerely and do not feel gratitude toward their teachers, accumulating negative karma through the authentic Dharma, and this becomes the foundation for falling into lower realms. This is truly, truly frightening. First, after receiving the Dharma, if you are indifferent and abandon it, never practicing or even looking at it, again, absolutely do not do this. Especially with this time's preliminary practices, each day's teaching is not very long. I sincerely hope you will take the time to study them earnestly and with sincere dedication. Reflect on them carefully yourself. If you contemplate them, you will truly receive the inconceivable blessings of the lineage masters. You yourself can become a very pure practitioner for your whole life, and you will not lose your motivation for the path. There are many truly unique and remarkable connections, as well as various causes and conditions involved in this. At the same time, you should feel grateful to all the teachers who have shown you kindness and to the Dharma teachers who have given you the gift of the teachings. Only in this way can you really receive blessings in your life. If, on the contrary, you do not practice at all, in any way whatsoever, and instead develop wrong or mistaken views about the teachings and their meaning, whether it's with your Vajra brothers and sisters or with many others, and you often respond with anger, jealousy, or other negative emotions, then by creating negative karma, you yourself become the foundation of samsara and is unnecessary. We rely on the Dharma because we seek liberation, not because we want to deliberately fall into degeneration. But sometimes, in fact, under specific circumstances, the Dharma can indeed be particularly dangerous, just like taking medicine. If you undergo surgery, you might in some cases recover almost immediately if the operation is successful. But if things don't go well, or if you take the wrong medicine yourself, at that point, it becomes very dangerous and could be life-threatening. In the same way, when we practice, we must be cautious. We have no choice. If we are careful, then just as it is said in the Sutra of Wise and Foolish, we can truly be considered wise, without a doubt. So I hope that everyone will really take a moment to truly consider this. Reflect repeatedly on the points discussed above. All right, that's all for today.
Om